Hello, everybody. It is me, Real American Politics, here with a interesting mathematical video, I guess, for you guys. So, in Twitter, I developed an election model to predict the vote share of a couple states. And today, I wanted to take a deep dive on two of the states, Arizona and Pennsylvania. Now, currently, I'm working on New Hampshire, North Carolina, tuning Florida, and I'm going to try to pump a couple of those out in the next week or so. But I have a couple done. I want to show you guys how the model works and it basically explain why it's actually a good model to look at, right? So the first thing is this model has no input other than real-world statistics. Now, we can take a deep dive onto the models, so let's get right into it. So there is four models, right? Two for each state. One model predicts the Republican vote share in Arizona. One model predicts the Democrat vote share. Same thing in Pennsylvania. So how this works is it uses something called a linear regression, or whatever you want to call it, a linear graph, whatever you want to call it, algebra stuff. If you want to look up how to do it, just Google it. I'm no math expert, but it's kind of basic algebra, and I just use this website just to make this graph. So what this graph takes is the vote share of each party in past elections and the registered voters based on party. So, for example, let's look at the 2000 election. Alright, so this is how it works. This is a 2000 election, this bubble right here. We take a look at it. This is a Republican. This is Bush versus Gore in Arizona. Bush got 781,000 votes, alright? So we plop in 781,000 votes. We also look at the registered voters at the time of the election. Well, you take a look at registered voters at the time of the election. Whoops. This one right here. 942,000 registered Republicans. And you just input that, and you do the rest for 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016. And this model has actually been fairly good. For the 2000 election, you got to go find 942,000 registered Republicans. It's off by 28,000 votes. All right. The thing is, it's hard to predict exact vote shares, but this is probably the best way to predict it. It's off by not that much when you really look at it. The next election is, of course, 2004, 1,055,000 votes, and it's off by 60,000 or so. It's not, again, it's hard to predict exact vote shares, but I reasonably say that if it's within 100,000 or 70,000 votes, it's fine. And of course, we go check, 2008, I believe, with McCain. You gotta go find it, 118, and here we go, off again by around 60,000 or so. Again, it's hard to predict the exact vote shares, but you get it. It's not off by so much, but except this bubble. We'll talk about that one a little bit. Now we got 2012, I believe. Off a little bit, but not terrible, around 60,000. That's why I noticed these three elections off by 60,000 votes. It's not terrible, alright? It actually undersamples Republicans big time in the state, so that's a thing. My models always undersamples Republicans or oversamples Democrats. But then you got this one, right here, 2016. Alright, this defied the entire trend. Right, and this is the reason why technically the model was so off in past elections. This right here. Take a guess who this was. Donald John Trump. I gotta go check this. I believe that the margin of error was, it's one of the first times that it actually oversampled Republicans big time. By a wide margin. That's not even close when you take a look at it. Like, the margin of error usually was, it undersampled Republicans. Well, Trump kind of broke that trend, to say the least, by around 150,000 votes. But with 2016, there's a lot of third-party votes, and really you can't predict third-party vote shares. There is a way, I'm thinking working on a third-party vote share model, but for now, this is basically what you get, alright, for the Republicans. There's only one real outlier, 2016, and I think that's going to be a slightly smaller margin this time. I think his margin of error is going to be around 100,000 votes. And it's not the end of the world. It did get off by a little bit, but again, the 4 other elections, it was basically spot on, but just this one outlier. I think it's going to be off by 100,000 votes. The only reason it was so off by so much was the third-party vote share. That's the biggest reason why. When you take a look at it, a lot of the third party was going to vote for Trump. For the Democrats, it's basically the same deal, and it's actually spot on. It's, other than I believe this is 2012, this is the only time it was kind of off. When you take a look at it, it did undersample Democrats by a little bit. But again, 80,000 votes. But the other times, it's actually oversampled Democrats. Like, this is 2008, I believe. It actually undersampled Democrats, I should say, by just a slightly smaller margin. And you get the point. It's not perfect, but again, when you actually take in the margin of error, it's still basically perfect. It always predicts the winner. So the model is currently projecting that Trump's going to win the state of Arizona by around 200,000 votes. Alright? And really, the model just has like 1 or 2 misfires, but it still predicts the winner every time. And I'll probably link these models into the description down below. So now we got Pennsylvania. This is where things get a little bit interesting, to say the least. This is the Democrat model for Pennsylvania. Notice a trend. It's actually pretty good when you actually look at it, but it does have one massive misfire. 2008-4, I believe. It really kind of misfired a little bit here. Undersampled Democrats by around 160,000 votes or so. But other than that, it's been basically just spot on. Like, every other election, it's been off by, 70,000 votes, which in the scale of Pennsylvania is not the worst. It usually, sometimes it undersamples Democrats, sometimes it doesn't. But it always predicts the winner. That's the big thing. It's not off by, again, it's off by a little bit, other than a couple times here and there. It misfires big time. But yeah, it usually oversamples Democrats by a wide margin. And really, that's actually a good thing. It's oversampling one party. You want to oversample one party when you want to make a model. So what this model looks at for the Democrat side is same as Arizona. It just uses the total, just right here. Democrats, it just goes down, just total amount of Democrats. In 2000, it was 3.7 million. The amount of votes Gore got, 2.4 million. And you just throw it in the model. But the thing is, it usually oversamples Democrats, like I said, other than, for some odd reason, I don't know why this election was so bad. John Kerry. It was such a misfire, but whatever. That's only real fluke. But Republicans has a different model, to say the least. It's a little bit closer than Democrats when you take a look at it. There's really no big outliers. They're basically spot on. And really, what this model does is it combines Republicans and other parties. The reason it does this is there is a correlation between, Republicans and third-party registration in Pennsylvania determining elections. You have a higher vote share of third-party and Republicans. Usually that's a good sign for Republicans. Now, the model is projecting Trump to win Pennsylvania by a ridiculous margin. I think it was like 400,000 votes. And, yeah. That's as of now. Party registration data updates pretty much every day. So, yeah. This model combines the two, and really, it was fairly spot on. It actually, it usually oversamples Republicans, but it actually gets a margin basically spot on, right? It's usually fairly good on determining the margins. Again, other than probably 2004, that was the only really bad misfire. Like, it projected that Bush was going to do a little bit worse than he did, but he still, the margin was still correct. It was within the margin of error. And yeah. So 2004 was the only one that was kind of weird, but even then that was not too bad. It still predicted John Kerry to win, but not by the margin they said. So yeah, this is the Republican model. It combines the two. And really, it's determining, I think it said that Trump's going to win by such a large margin. Let me see here. It determined that Trump's going to win with 3.3 million votes, and Joe Biden's going to win 2.9 million votes. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we got to see. It's going to update, I think, every day with the voter registration and party registration. And yeah. So this is the voter models. I wanted to do a quick deep dive on it. It's just linear regression. It's nothing complicated. It's not this nonsense where you put your bias into it. This is straight up from the books. You just look at it. I'll link the sources in the description down below if I don't forget. And yeah, this is kind of a quick explanation video. I kind of rambled on enough. You get the point that no bias. It's just, hey, my straight up math. Just, oh boy, it's basically spot on, you know. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, hit the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell. And yeah, this is how my model works. It has none of my bias into it. All of the data is from registration data and past election results. And it's, again, had basically one misfire that was so big for Arizona and one for Pennsylvania. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, hit that link button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell. And yeah, see you guys in the next video. Remember to subscribe. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next time.